Come back.
Hello? Yeah, hi, this is Chris. Yo, what's happening? I'm so glad you called.
Chapter 2: Death and Thanksgiving. And the first story, Recon into Tuttle Creek. In 1996, I purchased a book that has changed the course of my life. Or rather, it has added the brilliant colors necessary to continue the fabric weaving the tapestry of my life. This book appears as a common book on the shelf at your local outdoor equipment shop. It sits quietly on the shelf of the guidebook section. The book is The High Sierra: Peaks, Passes, and Trails. The author, R.J. Secor, is truly amazing, and upon first glance at this book, I see that it is a doorway into a new world, the High Sierra. As I read, I see passages and photographs of secret climbing routes, making my heart pound and my mind race with excitement. I begin to read this book over and over again, photocopying pages and planning climbing routes. It becomes my muse. I want, as most American backpackers do, to climb Mount Whitney. I quickly researched the second section in the guidebook entitled The Whitney Region. Names jump off the pages with a mystery about them. Names like Cottonwood Pass, Army Pass, the John Muir Trail, the High Sierra Trail, and many others. I begin to focus on what are called the cross-country routes, where I hope to find less people and more challenging and spectacular hiking. Routes like Whitney Pass and the North Fork Trail hypnotize me. My planning begins. The next step is that I need to begin purchasing geological survey maps as a logical addition to my gear catalog. Then I put map and guidebook together in a wonderful game combining studying and dreaming as I visually explore the many folds of the High Sierra landscape. There is a photo in the book taken by F. E. Mathis of Mount Corcoran and Mount LeConte from the northeast. The photo details an amazing ridge along the Sierra crest with over 5 spire-like summits. Some call it the Comb Ridge. I just call it amazing as I look at the deep ice-filled couloirs and read their ascent descriptions. I begin to read a 3-paragraph section that details the route to this ridge, and over the next 4 years, I must have read this section over 100 times. The section begins. Tuttle Creek and Tuttle Pass, 12,880 feet. It continues. This route serves as the approach to the north side of Mount Langley, the eastern approach to Mount Corcoran, the southwestern approach to Mount LeConte, and the southern approaches to Peak 3985, Peak 12960, and Lone Pine Peak. After a brief and detailed description of the route up the canyon, it states in a final paragraph, Tuttle Pass is a Class II talus-infested pass crossing the Sierra crest between Mount Corcoran and Mount Langley. It leads between Tuttle Creek and Rock Creek. It involves almost 7,000 feet of gain in a rugged, mostly trailless canyon on its east side. It is for adventurous hikers only. This last line both excites me and warns me, as I suppose it is intended to, but I dream of ascending this canyon. Over the next 4 years, I put my sights on what appeared to be more established routes, namely the Mountaineers route up the North Fork of Lone Pine Creek to Mount Whitney's east face. I make attempts at the Great Collier and still as yet have not reached the summit of Whitney. These trips up the canyon are extremely challenging and mind-opening as I practice mountain skills and learn the ways of the High Sierra. This is my proving ground and continues to be. This small area on a map is filled with 5 peaks over 14,000 feet and holds a lifetime of exploring, learning the fine art of mountaineering. Years have passed, and still I read the short paragraphs describing Tuttle Creek, and I wonder when I will go. I search over the years for references in other guidebooks of this canyon, but find few. I think, how could a canyon so magnificent as it must be, with such towering peaks, be overlooked? It is that dangerous or difficult? Finally, it is time, and I begin preparing my maps by making copies of the originals and using my compass and guidebook to plot a path up the canyon to my destination below Mount Corcoran and the Collier to the North Notch. On Memorial Day, I go to Sequoia National Park with my friend Monica, and we take a hike up to the Needles. There, as we stand on the summit of the mighty granite tower and talk to a ranger living in the hut, I overhear her saying to some others, "Yes, that's Mount Whitney off there in the northeast." I turn in amazement and look out across the vast mountain landscape to see some snow-capped ridge far away. I ask the ranger, "Is that Mount Whitney over there and Mount Langley on the right?" "Yes," she says, and then we begin a conversation about those summits and their flanking high country. I give her one of my postcards. The card I give her has a photo I took of the mighty east face of Mount Whitney. She is happy and has me sign it like a piece of art, a sort of autograph, I guess. It feels good. Monica and I begin our descent off the tower and sit on some nearby rocks to study the landscape. I have my binoculars and begin to look out towards the faint snow-lined ridge. I see the subtle granite towers of the Combe Ridge containing Mount Corcoran, and I decide within myself that this is my time to go. The ranger says this is a low snowpack year, and with these high temperatures, the snow is melting quickly. I think that this warm weather and dry high country could aid in me making a lightweight, quick ascent, and I focus on this dream of Tuttle Creek. The week rolls on, and I plan my summer out before me with all its adventures. My trip to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in July slowly becomes closer and a reality. The one thing, though, that holds me back is a serious injury I sustained paddleboarding in early May. I have severe overuse tendonitis in my left arm and wrist. I have to wear a cast for 2 weeks, and when I was in Sequoia with Monica, I had this cast and much pain. After that, I wore an arm brace, and the healing seemed to improve, but overall my lifestyle has ended for over a month. The healing progresses, and I begin surfing again with summer approaching. I see the mountain in my mind as, after so much time and pain, I move up out of the valley of the injury. I know the divorce is still weighing heavily on my mind. As I move from heaven to hell to heaven again, I never forget the journey. I speak to Monica about the trip to Baja, where we can camp on a secluded beach and surf. She loves camping and is truly excited to go. As the week approaches, I become overwhelmed with work and pressures, personal struggles, and the need to escape. I break all plans with Monica and begin to secretly pack and prepare for my High Sierra adventure. I decide to make an attempt into Tuttle Creek Canyon, a sort of reconnaissance with little expectations. This would be a safe thing to do. Go, check it out, and see what it's all about. The work week is busy and difficult. I tell my family and Monica about my Thursday plans to go to the mountains. They all understand and are happy for me. Things become better when my boss and his family decide to take a few days off and go on a vacation to San Francisco. This gives me the freedom to use my best skills to plan the workday around my needs, to rest a little and ice my hand in my continuing healing process. On Thursday, I visit the doctor, and things look good and feel good. He says I should take the brace off and begin to use the hand and see what happens. Friday arrives and I organize the day, visit the 2 job sites to be sure all the employees or projects are going well, and then I go home early. When I arrive home, Mom and Dad are on their way to a party and bid me farewell on my vacation. I say I am leaving early in the morning, but as soon as they walk out the door, I make a drastic change of plans, put my loaded pack in the car, and drive off towards the High Sierra by 1:30. I find that once I decide on a trip, I can't sit still, and it is better that I just go and get on with the adventure. The drive up Interstate 15 goes smoothly. After a few hours, I find myself on Interstate 395, cruising across the Mojave Desert. As I approach the Sierra, I begin to see a usual summer phenomenon, huge thunderstorms covering the mountains and the Owens Valley. During the last 40 miles, as the massive flank of the mountains rise on the left, I enter an amazing thunderstorm, filled with lightning and torrents of heavy rain. It is wonderful, with the window open and the hot drive turning for the first time to a cool one. The rain cleans the bug-stained windshield, and the sky is beautiful. The sun pokes through the clouds and in between high peaks as the rain falls, making for dramatic displays of magical light. Just as I enter Lone Pine, the rain stops, and all is crystal clean. I make the quick turn off the highway and up the Whitney Portal Road for a few miles before a turn south onto Horseshoe Meadows Road. After 1 mile, I stop to talk to a hitchhiker, needing a ride the 30 miles up the canyon to his car. He sounds European and has just made a multi-day trek around and down from Mount Whitney. I bid him good luck, and I am on my way, as I am only going another mile on that road. He is not worried. Anyway, he is on vacation, on an adventure in the mountains, and he has no need to worry, making his own mysterious route. After another mile, I turn onto the seldom used dirt road of Granite View Drive. Clouds are clearing, and I can see the huge canyon up ahead as the road continues across the desert landscape towards the entrance. The amazing thing about the southeastern Sierra is that these glacial carved canyons plunge directly from the crest and high peaks along streams and down canyons to the desert floor. It is possible to look from the highway and trailhead from 5,000 feet right up the creek to over 14,000 feet. It is about 7:15 when I park my car along the dirt road in an open area and begin the hike up the canyon. The landscape is open, dry desert as the dirt road continues for a half-mile or so of rugged four-wheel-only territory. Then it begins to change to manzanita and short western juniper trees. I can see the dense forest up ahead and hear the rushing Tuttle Creek down below in the canyon bottom. The road ends just about tree-lined, and as well marked trail continues along steeply up into the sparse forest. I see then, for the first time, the stone house, another half-mile ahead up in the forest. The canyon is made up of two forks. The North Fork, which has a really old trail hidden and rarely used, extends directly to the crest, and the South Fork, which turns left around a corner, also ascends to the crest through a series of step-up meadows and boulder fields. The Stonehouse Ashram sits on a ridge directly between the two in an advantageous and beautiful location. The trail turns toward the South Fork Canyon and soon enters the dense forest, where I come to an old footbridge that crosses the creek. I stop to pump some water and eat a snack during the subtle light of dusk. I continue another 100 yards to come up to the stone house. In the High Sierra, R.J. Secor states, "From the end of Granite View Drive, go up the canyon on a trail to the abandoned stone house that once served the needs of fundamentalist Christians or utopian nudists, depending on which story you believe. As I am learning, guidebooks are sneaky and vague at times. I enter this so-called abandoned stone house and am amazed to find a wonderfully maintained, cleaned, large rock house with cement floor. I quickly walk in and look around to see the 4 doorways leading out to spectacular views, large windows with no glass, and a massive stone fireplace with a long log in front of it to sit on. The evening is closing in, and the wind has completely stopped. The silence is a little eerie as I walk around this house, calling out to see if others are there. I drop my pack and walk around the place to check out the amazing views into the canyon from every side of the house. I find an old shed out back and see what is inside. First I knock gently on the metal door, kept closed by some string. No answer, so I untie the string and open the creaking door. The shed is filled with tools and building materials from the good person whom apparently comes up here and keeps this place in such fine shape. Once I am sure that I am alone and all is well, I gather some twigs and bark for a fire and begin to prepare dinner by setting up my camp stove on the small cement table in the house. Out the back door is a nice sandy area along a cliff with a spectacular view up the canyon and the 2,000-foot south wall of Lone Pine Peak and the Red Baron Tower. There I set up my bed for the night and return inside to make dinner as the sun sets. The small fire sends welcome shadows through the dark house as the silence and night close in on me. An occasional bat flies by in the house, chasing bugs in the rafters of the high-beamed ceilings. I cook and walk around a little as the evening stretches on. Often I walk out the front door to look for the glow of the full moon, which is rising behind the massive wall of the canyon. After a nice dinner, I walk back out front to stretch and relax as the moon begins to near and crest the canyon wall. I can see the intense glow shining high into the sky. I trade off views and walk to the back area where I will sleep to see the moonlight creeping down the massive granite wall of Lone Pine Peak. Moonglow on granite walls is an amazing and unexplainable sight. I will encounter this all weekend, and I look forward to it. The stars are brilliant, but as the moon rises in the sky, their magnificence is slowly diminished. At around 10:30, I go off to my wonderful cliffside bed to fall asleep while looking up at the giant illuminated wall as the light slowly and continuously creeps down the side of the wall towards the dark canyon bottom. I am awakened throughout the night by a mouse jumping about along the side of the house. It is just so silent and still that even the subtle footsteps of a mouse are loud as can be. Each time I wake up from the sounds, I am thankful for the chance to look up the canyon again and again at the illuminated wall. Truly a dream. The only constant sounds, though gentle and far below, are the cascading waterfalls of the creek. Saturday I wake at 4:30, rising quickly and begin to pack while water is boiling for breakfast. I have soup, tea, and do some yoga to loosen up. The alpenglow sunrise with a few passing clouds opens the day with a golden blast, and by 5:30 I am on my way. R.J. Secor states, climb about 100 feet directly above the house and follow an old pipeline that leads to the southwest. Just before reaching the South Fork of Tuttle Creek, a faint use trail can be found. The use trail avoids most of the brush and remains on the north side of the stream until 9,600 feet, where it crosses the creek and disappears. That sounds easy enough, but I know better. So I begin slowly, looking at every mark on the hillside to be sure I am on the correct path. I walk up above the house to find a hole dug out where water used to be stored. Whatever pipeline was there before must have been buried or gone, but it is clear where the water would have come from, and I find a recognizable path towards the direction I should go. The trail traverses across the steep hillside covered in few large trees. Deep sand and gravel make walking slow and tiresome. Remember now, it is just before 6 a.m., and the sun, though hidden behind the giant wall of the canyon, is casting brilliant light into the canyon. A large waterfall cascades out of the dense forest ahead. I locate it on the map, as I do with every significant landmark I encounter. The path continues and comes to a fork where I stop and look at the different paths. I decide to cross through the thick manzanita trees along a faint trail, which is the correct choice, for the trail continues along after that is fairly visible. The hillside remains very steep, and at times I slide along and struggle to remain on the right path. I find cairns, small rock-made rock piles that mark subtle directions through the wilderness. I come through the steep bushwhacking hell into the gentle pine-filled meadow along the creek. Sun filters through the lush canopy of trees, and the canyon wall ahead becomes closer and closer. I stop below what is called the Keyhole Wall, a massive granite wall along the north side of the canyon. From there I can see high up into the canyon. I take out my notes from the guidebook and read again the short passage. This use trail avoids most of the brush and remains on the north side of the stream until 9,600 feet, where it crosses the creek and disappears. climb onto a rib on the south side of the canyon, and stay on top of it while hiking up the Tuttle Creek drainage. As usual, that seems easy enough, and I look at the map and surroundings to determine my altitude and find the stream crossing. I am about 9,200 feet. I determined, and I can see up ahead a waterfall cutting through as what I decide is a rib protruding from the canyon floor. To the south is a massive flow of talus, which seems clear enough and the most obvious way to go. So I continue, intending to cross the stream below this waterfall and climb the talus slope ahead. Talus is an amazing thing. Boulders ranging in size from 1 foot to 15 feet, and it is through these great piles of this that much of the Sierra backcountry is crossed. It takes me 2 hours from the stonehouse to reach the tangle of brush below the falls, and I choose to cross as close to the falls as possible, where the stream will be the most narrowest. I find a path and come to the water's edge amongst the cascades. I roll up my pants and tighten my pack straps to ford the stream. I step into the rushing icy water, cross a few boulders, and am on the other side, pushing through the brush. From there I climb the talus up a few hundred feet to the top of this rib to the forest above the falls. I find a gentle trail crossing this thin forest that grows along the creek, and enjoy the level walking. 2 deer cross my path, and we stop to look at each other. It is so amazing how they bound silently through the forest, jumping yards at a time, and disappear. I continue up this gentle meadow, checking my map often and the towering walls ahead and alongside me. I come to another steep area where granite and talus rise in front of me. 3 streams flow together from the high peaks above. One flows from the right, cascading in several ribbons for over 1,000 feet. There I climb a large talus slope up to the right and around a huge wall to come to a small stream and an ancient grove of foxtail pines. These wonderful trees only grow between 9,000 and 11,000 feet and grow for over 1,000 years. They are big and thick, twisted and aged. They grow apart from each other, giving great camp spots in the sandy areas between. I see that more pines are above, and I continued by climbing a few rock slabs and snow slopes to reach 11,000 feet and the final grove of ancient pines. There I find a nice place to rest in the shade. I make lunch and spend the next 3 hours sleeping. Awakened several times by the hot sun as it moves me out of the shadows, I move a little into the shade again and sleep. Above me, rising in a final 1,000-foot tangled wall of ridges, is Mount Langley at 14,024 feet. On all sides, walls rise in sheer glacial carved beauty. When I wake up, I decide to hike the short distance to the base of one of the cascading ribbons below the waterfall. I find a nice cascade with grass all below it perched on a cliff. There, in the hot sun, I take off my clothes and bathe in the icy water. I relax on the warm, soft grass and stretch my aching body. I repeat this several times over the hour. It is wonderful and peaceful, bathing in the cascade and hot sun alone in the alpine wonderland. Often, just as I am creeping over the sharp rocks to brave another cascade bath, some growing clouds block the sun and it gets chilly. I sit on the grass and wait for the sun to return as I shiver, clean and rejuvenated. Clouds begin to fill the sky. It is about 3 p.m., and I have time for another hike. I get dressed and begin climbing up the massive talus boulders leading steeply up into the higher bowl. I come across several spots where the stream emerges from under the boulders to whisper by. I stop to pump a few quarts of water and continue on. To my excitement, I crest the boulders and come to see the upper bowl, the Sierra Crest, and the high Tuttle Pass at 12,880 feet, just a mile ahead. In this desolate land of boulders and sky, wonderful tiny flowers peek through the rocks for their summertime show. I check my map, take a few photos, and soon am pushed into retreat by the cold wind. It does not take long to return to camp and the comfort of my friends, the foxtail pines. There I rest and write in my journal. Suddenly, just 50 feet away, I see 2 hikers. I try to wave, but am too slow. They look at me and continue on behind the rocks. I guess when you go out of your way to climb to such a desolate and quiet place all alone, people see that and respect your privacy. So I remain alone and begin to make a dinner at about 5. After I am through eating, it really looks like rain is on the way, and since I have no tent, I pack up all my gear and put on my warmest clothes and rain gear. Sure enough, thunderclaps sound, and even a few bolts strike across the sky, and freezing rain follows soon after. It is really very fun and exciting to see the sky changing and the wonderful colors that move through the canyon. All my gear is in my pack and under an old tree. I am warm and have a jug of water. If I have to, I know I can survive all night in the clothes I am wearing, so I walk out to the edge of the cliff and look across at the wall of cascades, the swirling clouds above, and enjoy the lightning show. The rain falls hard at times, and often as hail. I move under the protection of a boulder for a while and also a tree. The storm lasts for over an hour, and it tapers off slow as the first flashes of blue sky show themselves high above the pass. Then a tall rainbow erupts in the east from far below in the Owens Valley and stretches high into the sky. It is nearly straight up and will make an impressive and gigantic bow as it soars to completion. Just before sunset, the last rain falls and clouds begin to clear from the west above the Sierra crest and gather in the east out over the valley. Huge cumulus clouds gather and grow in a surreal display. Blue skies make way for nightfall, and the brilliant stars to appear before the full moon illuminates them into obscurity. I take my gear out of its safe and dry storage in the old tree to make my bed and crawl into it. I see the amazing sunset from inside my warm sleeping bag, and I watch and listen to the walls of cascades filtering down from the canyon above. I fall asleep by 8:30. I wake in the middle of the silent and still night to marvel at the sight of the moon glow on the tall peaks and sheer granite walls. At 4 a.m., I wake and begin to prepare for a day hike up the canyon. I have tea and soup, then stash the gear back in the old tree. By 5 a.m., I begin to climb the talus towards the waterfall. R.J. Secor states, Mount Corcoran, 13,780 feet, North Notch from the east. Class 2 to 3. First ascent 1958 by Carl Heller. From 11,000 feet on the south fork of Tuttle Creek, climb slabs leading to a canyon to the northwest. Stay high and well to the north to avoid talus, and move into the northernmost of two basins at the head of the canyon. Climb the broad chute leading to the notch between Mount LeConte and Mount Corcoran. This is my goal, and I figured that these cascades lead up into this upper canyon. The sun has not yet risen, and the lighting is low and subtle. It is still quite cold as I make my way across a huge ledge and climb the rocks along the cascades. The sun rises as I am among the cascades in an amazing alpenglow display. I stop for a few minutes to photograph the magic light. I continue up through the boulders and slabs until, to my amazement, I saw the first glimpses of the tall pinnacles ahead, Mount Corcoran. I stop to take a few more photos in the perfect light and location. 4 years or more of thought and struggle, preparation and dreams culminate in the moment I crest the boulders and come to rest at the entrance to the first bowl. Clouds swirl about the peaks in a deep, moist color of blue-gray. Their intensity is matched only by the infinite blue of sky around them. I sit for a while and look in wonder at the ridge that some call the Comb Ridge. It looks a little like a comb with its 6 spires jutting up alongside each other. There is peak 4151, which is 13,618 feet, the Shark's Tooth, Mount Corcoran, and Mount LeConte on the end. Each is separated by deep ice-filled colliers and other granite outcropping towers. It is an amazing sight. I photograph the site and continue on towards the higher bowl. You can hear streams flowing in the granite, but they are hidden down in the cracks far below. A small lake is at the bottom of the bowl, clear, clean, and surrounded by white boulders. I hike across a gravel slope and over the large boulders with the stream below. Then I climb up a long patch of snow and come into the upper bowl, even more spectacular than the first. Rising Directly from the bowl is the chute to the North Notch, with towering Mount Corcoran and Mount LeConte flanking it on the right. There I sit and continue my mental journey of the years that brought me here. I'm looking at this site. I think how easy it would be to climb across the boulders and snowfields to the chute and climb up to the notch. Oh, how I want to so bad. This is what I have been dreaming of. Those few photographs that describe the ascent, they echo in my mind as I read them again and study the map. In this trip, this reconnaissance into Tuttle Creek, I never intended to reach these upper bowls. I have great respect for these high places, their nuances and complexity. I left my ice axe and crampons home, deciding then that I would not ascend the peaks. But here I am, in just a short weekend. I know then that I will soon return to this magical place and move up high into those sacred places between the walls. I look forward to discovering some old summit registry of which would be filled with the famous names of those before. It is only 7 a.m., and the light is amazing, bright, and beautiful. I photograph the scene and reluctantly begin the descent. There is a group of 4 climbers coming up below me, and as they pass, we stop and talk a few minutes. I wondered whose footsteps we were following, the first guy says. Did you climb Mount Corcoran? No, I responded. I am just checking it out. This is my first trip up here. It is so amazing here, and the trail was much easier than I had anticipated. This place is a jewel, a secret. Well, don't tell anyone, he says. Let them think it is difficult, so this place will stay empty and clean, quiet, and a secret. Good luck, I say, and continue on down the path. I come across a woman in their group a little ways down the canyon. We are both struggling over the rough talus, and we stop to say hi to each other. Your friends are just up ahead, I say. They said you are all climbing the North Notch route. We'll see how we do, she responds, and smiles as we continue along up the steep canyon towards the magic Sierra crest. I continue down the slabs alongside one of the many cascades and stop in an area of grass and waterfalls all around. The sun is shining bright and no one is around. I need a break and I stop to rest as I start to realize the long, difficult hike I have ahead of me and if I am able to hike out today. I remove my clothes on the grass and walk across the shallow rivulets of ice water to an appealing cascade to bathe. I repeat my ritual of icy and freezing showers in the cascades, and then relaxing on warm grass in the sun. I pump a few quarts of water and soon am continuing on down the last steep section to the canyon below. I reach the boulder field, cross it, and arrive at the stand of foxtail pines in my camp. It is 8 a.m., and time to eat after a long morning hike. I eat and pack all my gear, and am on the trail going down by 9:30. The hike down is fast, yet strenuous. I find better paths and move along quickly, descending thousands of feet in over an hour. The sun blazes down on me, and I am sure to get a sunburn, so I cover my face as best as possible. Crossing the stream at the midpoint is hell. I don't find the same path as before, and when I cross it, I find myself trapped in a maze of tall brushes in the hot sun. Thorny bushes scratch at my legs and branches reach at my face. After that, the next section is gentle and shaded before the immense hell, the final bend to exit the canyon. The hillside steepens and becomes covered in sand and trees. The path is nearly invisible. I lose it several times, struggling as my legs are very weary. I slide at times on the steep slope, losing my footing, losing my mind. I hike through brushes, over rocks and into deep sand. At one point I slip, fall on my back and bounce off the springy pack and tumble down the mountain over rocks and sand. Once on my stomach, I am able to force my hands and large tough boot toes into the earth and quickly stop. I am only 20 or 30 feet down the hill, and surely there is another linking path below, so I don't have to climb back up, but I am shaken and used up by the ordeal. Then, just yards away, a large male deer steps out from behind the brush, crossing the rocks as I am. It freezes, and we stare at each other. I stand still, and the deer looks at me for a few minutes, gently turning its head as if my stillness made me invisible. When I move just a little bit, it flinches. Then it bounds off in one silent leap. I stand there dirty and sweaty, sand and rocks in my shoes and hair, scraped knees, and very tired. I force a continuation, but the struggle is not over. I find a dead end as the trail comes up against a wall of sharp manzanita bushes. I can see the trail continuing on the other side. I have enough, and I just go for it, right through and onto the deep sand of the other side, cutting my leg on the sharp brush. My legs ache, and one of my toes is smashed and bruised, so I am unable to walk on it. I hobble along, walking on the side of my toe, and the path paying the price for adventure's gifts. I come across the stone house and continue, only thinking of the shade and stream ahead. When I reach the stream, I drop everything and take off my pack, shirt, and toes to put on and shoes to put on my feet in the ice water and begin drinking water. A woman suddenly comes around the corner with her dog. She is day hiking, and her boyfriend is just behind. I look like hell and am spread out all over the small bridge. They see my pack and smile, knowing I have just explored the high country. He stops to drink a little water with me and soon continues. I don't look forward to the next mile, which is steep and exposed to the hot sun. My feet are killing me. I soak my shirt and put it back on, shoulder the pack and continue, breathing hard and focused. I power walk strong and continuous until I reach the safety of my waiting car. I quickly take off my boots and pack, climb in the car and begin speeding down the dirt road towards the comforts of home, excited and elated, filled with the pains and exhaustion. I drive off dreaming of the next return, the next adventure, and my next journey up Tuttle Creek and Mount Corcoran. Valley of the Moon. I prepare our packs throughout the week so that when Friday comes, I am ready. Fridays at work are always hectic, like a busy train that wrecks at quitting time. Every tradesman on the project is rushing to put away all their tools and clean up the mess and get home to their families. I soon find myself back at my parents', lying on the grass in the sun and talking to a few friends. A good friend of our family happens to be over, Perry Bell. He is a fellow wilderness junkie, and he spends many days a year making heroic winter ascents up Sierra peaks to ski down them. He always invites me, but I have chickened out so far. It is great to hear a fun story of his before my brother and Randy go out on our own adventure. He tells me of how he camped in the snow at the top of Mount Langley during a horrendous storm just a few days before. Not long after, Perry and his wife Barbara drive off. Randy and I say goodbye to our sister Robin, who is off to college at Berkeley, and we are in the truck and on our way towards Hukumba, the deep Inkopah Gorge, and the Valley of the Moon. The traffic is not bad, and we reach Inkopah just before sunset. There is a little bed and breakfast along the highway there, and I had inquired a few months before over the phone with them if I could park my car at their place for safety. We stop by and they give us our blessing. They are happy and a quiet couple, living alone along the desert highway. We shoulder our packs and head down the road under the freeway and onto the dirt road towards the hills. We follow a small trail that enters a boulder field and a dry stream up the hill. As we work our way up the steep hill, the sun is getting fiery red, and the crescent moon is just behind, beginning to glow in the darkening sky. We are both excited and inspired, hiking up the hill quickly as darkness approaches. It is a series of boulder hops, like walking up stairs. We reach a saddle, sweating and breathless, and continue to follow the clear trail. It becomes dark, but we are able to see well from the dusk glow and the gentle crescent moon. So we continue until we reach the highest point. From there we can see all the way down into the Imperial Valley and the lights 50 miles away. The wind is blowing strong and continuous as we search among the boulders and cactus for a sandy place to make camp. We soon are relaxing below the stars and enjoying the setting moon. We are at about 3,200 feet on an open hilltop above the Valley of the Moon. Open sky is all around, and strange sounds emerge from the blackness in every direction. Wind howls, and animals begin to wake and move about the cool air for their evening food gathering. We walk to a massive boulder pile nearby, where we find a windless cave to hang out in. It is dark and scary, and as we make the short walk back to camp, we are lost for a moment. Wait, I say. I see the city in that direction, and our camp is the other way. We turn and follow the light of our large flashlight as Randy stumbles along in his sandals. We find our spot and begin unloading our gear. It is too windy to cook, so we just eat dry food and some soda water that Randy has brought. We talk and look up at the stars. It is fun sitting in the dark together, talking as the wind blows and nature surrounds us. The interstate is just over the ridge, and the lights of the cars shine high into the sky and hit the 3,500-foot granite tower nearby. I'd seen this faint light move across the mountain before, and it scares me until I realize what it is. We also hear gunshots, like an automatic rifle, from other campers out on the many dirt roads that traverse the valley. The noisy wind shakes the plants, and at times we become paranoid. We continue gazing up at the stars and the blazing Milky Way, snug in our sleeping bags until we fade off to sleep. I wake before sunrise, sore and tired, but happy to see my surroundings again. I begin to pack and eat a little, and my noise wakes Randy. Just then, the sun breaks through the first crack of the horizon to shoot rays high into the dark desert sky. The sun rays pierce through a crack in a nearby boulder pile, shooting golden orange light around our camp. Randy gets up, we eat, and continue packing. Before we start hiking for the day, we walk out onto the boulder from the night before to look out and get a view of where we might be going. The Incopah Mountains are the last mountains before you cross the border from California to Mexico. The western side rises through San Diego from the west into the rugged terrain of the Cuyamaca Mountains, which rises to over 6,000 feet. The mountains then reach a ridge that falls away over 5,000 feet into the desert floor below, where cities like Ocotillo, Borrego, and Mexicali rest. The giant Imperial Valley goes off into the seemingly infinite distance until you hit the city of Yuma and the great state of Arizona on the banks of the Colorado River. We are sitting on a boulder pile on the top of this ridge, looking down into the 5,000-foot drop. The Valley of the Moon rests just below us as a maze of giant granite towers and monoliths. We commune in a small cave for a ritual and a few prayers. We drink some water and begin our hike. We had been here once before with our parents and my first wife. We went on a day along this same trail, so Randy and I used this as a base from which to begin. The trail, of which there are many, is a small deer trail. Others use it, like bobcats and the occasional mountain lion or an illegal alien arriving from Mexico. We descend further east into a small valley with a large peak rising from the center. We remember when Randy and I climbed it before as our parents sat below. Things look familiar as we plot our course on the map. We turn left around the mountain and begin descending into a gully. The entire landscape, except where filled with sandy valleys or animal trails, is broken, gigantic juniper trees and cactus. Often the hiking is pure boulder hopping, merging with basic rock climbing. The path into the gully begins as a straightforward boulder hop scramble. Then the sides begin to rise up steep, as so we are blessed with shade. Though the gully remains straight, it turns into a maze of huge boulders piled and broken, with dark pits and caves below our feet. The peak remains directly to our right, and all seems well. We continue exploring down the gully. 5 or 6 times we are forced to make difficult rock moves through chimneys or under them through caves. Once we have to remove our heavy packs and lower them down with a rope. It is tough, challenging, exciting, and a lot of fun. On several occasions we struggled to keep our wits, questioning what the hell we are doing down in these huge boulders. Finally, we get a glimpse of a sandy valley below, a few more crux situations, and we step out onto a sandy wash and into the blazing sunshine to rest for a while. It is about 11 and very hot. We sit in the shaded sandy pit below the gully where the water comes rushing out during flash floods. As we rest in the shade, ants begin crawling all over us. We jump up, brushing them off. we had set right in the sandy anthill, so we just moved away from it. Packs are dropped, and we begin boiling water and making food. Then it is time for a nap. The view out through the boulders is wonderful. Strange plants and colorful lichen cover the boulders in a patchwork of neon green, oranges, and black. There is a gentle breeze singing through the granite valley, and the space around feels infinite. After about an hour, I get up to brave the sun and climb a nearby boulder hill. There, on the peak, I sit in the shade while drawing pictures and gazing at the amazing panorama. After a while, I hear a whistle. I look down 200 feet and then across the wash to see Randy on a similar boulder mountain across from me. We signal and begin climbing down to each other and continue exploring through the sand, boulders, and trees together. After a few hours, we go back to our shady camp to rest. The day feels like a sweat lodge ceremony, with temperatures around 100 degrees. We relax for another hour before getting up to climb again. We climb up a much larger peak this time, up a few hundred feet of solid boulders filled with caves and cliffs. We are not together, but we yell to each other often to know where the other one is. I reach a high point and sit to draw pictures while my legs dangle off a precipice. Randy continues scrambling until he reaches the base of a huge summit block. It is easily 20 feet high of solid granite. I am just 40 feet below him in my shady cave. He plays one of his wacky games. This one is called evolutioning, as he pushes large boulders off cliffs to fall and smash below. It is amazing how a boulder weighing several hundred pounds can be easily rolled, and when it falls, it smashes into pure sand in an instant. After this session of climbing around, we meet up and go back to camp to take a final rest before sunset. By now, the shade has begun to return to our campsite, and we are feeling much better. We walk out into the open wash to see the sunset and the moon appear amidst the incredible panorama of granite boulder mountains. It is amazing to see the color of the sunset change from gold to pink, then purple on the boulders around us. The moon sets behind these same boulders, and it quickly becomes dark. I start a small fire back within the boulders, and we have dinner. We finish it off with hot chocolate. When the fire fades later that evening, we walk back out into the open wash one last time to stargaze before returning to camp and falling asleep. I sleep right through the night in a maze of dreams to wake just before sunrise. I begin to pack and then go out to the wash to see the first golden rays of dawn come into the valley. I think of the difficult hike we have before us as we will attempt to hike back to the car. Randy wakes up soon and begins packing. We sit together for a final ritual to say goodbye to this magical place. Then we begin hiking out. We avoid the gully we came down by hiking up a gully just one over to the west. It has a gentle entrance and some sand to walk on. As soon as the boulders begin to get large, we climb up and out onto the ridge to find a sandy path, then an animal trail, and an exit. We come out onto the big valley, walk a little, and look into the nasty gully we descended the day before. It is time then to begin looking for the trail that leads west and up the mountain. It is a maze, and I am unsure which way to go. Randy finds a very heavily used trail, and we take it. Randy hates that I use maps and make him stop all the time in order to figure out which way to go and where we are. This time is no exception, and he walks off as I mark where I think we are and which way we are going. He is sure he knows where we are going as we follow the trail up a hill. The view expands as we make our way up and out of the valley. Twisting mazes become visible far below, and other hidden peaks begin to show their tops. In reality, we are lost, but not totally, maybe just misplaced. I hope we will run into a road I see on the map. When we do, that is good, but it does not help as we can't tell which way to go. The way that we think we should go leads down into a boulder gully, and that just does not seem right. But the compass and map say it is, and we enter the gully. We climb down a little and then traverse across the ridge until we find some Class 3 bouldering, which allows us to reach the summit block. As we look around at the incredible view, we see some familiar sights. First, there is a radio tower we recognize, and then there is another road. We locate both on the map and feel good, knowing we have found our way. We are very tired from that awesome climb up hundreds of feet of boulders. We end up way off course and much higher than we intended to be. This is epic exploring and very exciting. We continue on the road, and all is well until we come to another fork. Randy doesn't have any clue which way to go, and he does not trust or agree with me. We go right and come around a bend to happily see the view out west, the highway, and our car. It feels good, because I can see in Randy's eyes that he understands why I use the map. My directions make sense. There are a lot of mental and physical struggles on this awesome trip. It is a true adventure. Hiking with Randy is very difficult because he is so clumsy and he takes risks like walking on boulders that wiggle or climbing around in sandals. He argues about which way to go, but then does not pay attention to his surroundings. It is just the same old Randy, the one that I love and in the long run always look forward to exploring and hanging out with. The Valley of the Moon is an amazing place, seldom visited. It lies along a very rugged and hot section of the mountains that tend to scare people away. It is a jewel, though, a precious secret and natural resource. It is a truly magical place that I dream and hope to return again. Winter Dream. Randy and I had been through a lot together. A rock and roll storybook to Hollywood and back. Lately, our friendship has been distant, and yet we realize this and reach out at times. Mainly, we just have been planning things together, and now we plan something bigger. The wilderness permits return in the mail, and I am happy to open the letters from the Forest Service. There is one permit for Mount Whitney, and another for the South Fork Lakes. The trip to Mount Whitney is only a week away, and I dive right into packing and fussing over all the mountain gear. I've been working on this same house in Rancho Santa Fe for over 8 months. It's a 15,000 square foot monster. These past few months, I've been there every day because we are nearing the end. It is cleanup time, crunch time, as owners, contractors, bosses, and friends become uptight from the exhaustion. I need some escape, some adventure, and the High Sierra is just the place. The weather is a strange mixture of spring coolness and thick tropical clouds. Over the winter, it rained torrents, even late into spring. The year has been a record El Nino season with major snowfall, and I want to see for myself how high the snowpack really is. As I work, I dream of the trip to the North Fork of the Lone Pine Creek. The afternoon is warm, yet overcast, as my boss and I are loading materials into the studio after a long day of painting. He takes me back to his old dusty corner to give me a parting gift for my trip and asks that I come home alive. Then I speed on the highway as fast as I can to begin putting my pack and gear into the car. As I put things in the car, I reflect back on my life. I think of all my gifts, my struggles over the year with divorce, and all that it had revealed in me, and I think of my loving circle of friends that grows about me. I recall my last trip in October when I climbed neighboring Mount Russell near the Whitney Massif, and I look forward to my brother Randy coming with me on this trip. He soon arrives, and we finish packing the car together and drive off up California Center to the Sierra Nevada mountains. We listen to great music, as usual. He brings along an assortment of his latest favorites. We talk deeply on many subjects, mostly with Randy leading the conversations, with words flowing from his brain like spring rivers bursting their banks. I drive for the first 2 hours until we reach the Mojave Desert. Randy takes the wheel for a sunset drive across the desert and the approach to the Sierra Nevada. We speak less over time as Randy focuses on his driving and I imagine our night hike. We arrive in Lone Pine at dusk. Huge tropical clouds swirl around with the electric blue sky visible in patches, the glow of twilight mountains for quite a while as we drive up the Whitney Portal and into the dirt roads of Movie Road into the Alabama hills. We park and begin to change our clothes as the day turns into night. After some final gear adjustments, we fill some water bottles and begin the short drive up the mountain to the parking area. The parking area is nearly empty. We are car number 3 when usually there are 100. It is 10:30 as we park the car and in minutes shoulder our packs and begin hiking up the Whitney Trail into the darkness. We hike for over a half mile up the Whitney Trail when we veer off the trail and go straight up the North Fork Trail into the dense forest. This trail is a cross-country route with thin varying trails and steep rocky terrain where stream crossings are frequent. The nearly full moon has risen, but the massive canyon walls are so high they give little room for the reflecting eye of the moon to cast its light on the mountain granite. The walk is silent and black, with only the noise of our feet and breath and the view of the forest and our headlamps' short beam. The trail is barely visible, with snow patches and wet stream crossings. Randy follows behind, trusting my every step as we move up through the darkness. I watch my feet as the path unfolds before me. We move one step at a time, one old footprint after another, as we find the trail into the wilderness. At times we think we see another light up ahead in the gorge. The darkness at times becomes creepy. The silence is haunting. When you sneak around the forest at night, if you hear something or you think you see something, you stop to listen and look. If you think you see another lamp, you stop and shut your own off to pause and see if you are truly alone. The sudden darkness catches you off guard. We take mini breaks, struggling up the brush-filled gorge. At one point, we pause for an hour, just relaxing on some boulders, enjoying the calm Sierra night and blazing stars as the stream cascades nearby below sheets of ice. From this point, we make several stream and snow crossings and climb our way through the dense brush up to a waterfall. The stream is very full, and the little cascade is splashing good, making it difficult to cross under it and stay dry. The darkness makes it more challenging as we step over logs and rocks to the other side of the gorge. Randy trusts me, and I myself, as we continue up past the waterfall towards the foxtail pine tree and the Ebersbacher ledges, also known as Clyde's Traverse, the magic exit of the difficult climb. The moon has not crested the canyon walls, but the glow is pushing in through the darkness. We reach the start of the ledges and climb up the first few boulders to the pine tree that marks the start. From there we rest and gain some focus for the next few minutes. The next short section is not difficult, but the ledges are fully exposed and a fall would be serious if not fatal. Someone dies here every few years. Then before our eyes the moon crests the canyon wall and illuminates the gorge. Granite absorbs the color and light, creating contrast and shadow. With the ledges in moonlight, we begin to step up and across with care and caution. The ledges end just a few hundred feet below the lake. There, the Boulder Creek is buried below 10 to 15 feet of snow and ice. A wide, steep ramp of snow stretches directly up in front of us, burying the trail beneath it. We aren't wearing our crampons or using ice axes, so we step gingerly up the ice to the top. Definitely a dangerous move. At about 1 a.m., we reach 10,300 feet and the cirque of Lower Boy Scout Lake. There is about 3 feet of base snow on the ground, and most of the shallow lake is frozen across the top. On the east side of the lake, we set up camp and the tent. Snow begins to fall while we are setting up the tent. Randy goes right into bed as I set up the stove and make soup until 3 a.m. We laugh together as huge thunder claps and lightning lights the canyon. Sitting alone, I look out to see an actual strike on the lake surface, not more than 100 yards away. I stay up until 4, eating warm soup and enjoying the gentle snow falling. I awake at about 7 a.m. to a dull gray light and snapping sounds as large hail strikes the tent. Venturing out, I see 6 inches of fresh snow. The snow is balls of white ice, up to an inch in size, light as a feather, but solid as a rock. Stones snap the tent hard and sting the skin if they hit you. I dress warm and dry and begin the day with a walk in the snow. As I sit and look out at the frozen lake, a hiker or two pass by on their way up the mountain. We say a few words in passing and wave goodbye as I watch their little black shapes go up the snow slope into the clouds. I am about 50 feet from the tent as it begins to snow very hard. Then I hear Randy's voice call out as he is awakened by the sound of the snow hitting the tent and trees. He's a grouchy morning person, and I hear him grumbling. The granite walls of the cirque appear and disappear as the massive clouds pass through the bowl and on up the mountain. A ghostly sight appears as the clouds clear from the 1,000-foot wall below Thor Peak. What I see I can't believe, for what looks like a giant waterfall begins to pour from the crest of this wall. The white plumes fall slow, merging with the gusty winds to blow away before the last 100 feet. The snow is falling hard, and it looks as though the waterfall is actually an avalanche of snow sliding off the crest of this wall. The little snowballs don't stick together, so they just must have rolled up the mountain like an avalanche of marbles. Another falls appears near the first, and I watch it fall hundreds of feet to finally merge with the air into an erupting cloud of snow. I yell to Randy, but he is not about to come out of the warm, dry tent. This whole thing only lasts a few minutes until the mysterious and mighty snowfalls halt. I am left in awe, sitting on a rock as silent clouds move up the mountain. The snow stops soon after dawn, and we begin to make a breakfast and pack up our gear. We pack leisurely, but it doesn't take long, and we are on our way towards the next lake at 11,500 feet. It is a chilly 29 degrees as we begin our hike along the lake. As we pass through the boulder field, the pair of day hikers come down from their pre-dawn hike. They were trying for Thor Peak and were driven back by the dawn snowstorm. The footpath crosses right over sections of the lake, and we hike across the frozen open space. We look up the canyon and pause to take our first photos, but nothing. The shutter is frozen shut, and the battery goes dead trying to take the photo. There we are. I have Randy perfectly framed, winter gear, ice axe, and the crampons, with a view behind of the giant walls, but no photos. The trip then slips into memory. I pack the camera and never try it again. The hike up the snow-filled bowl is tiring but straightforward. We follow the usual route on smooth, hard snow, 15 feet above the boulders, buried below the snow. The steep mountain slope comes down from towering cliffs and goes right into the lake. A fall could send you tumbling down to the rocks below, or worse, into the frozen lake. At one point, Randy drops a glove he is fumbling with. Then he drops another glove, and as it slides down the face, he tries to get it and falls down the snow. He doesn't slide far. We laugh, and I wait as he regains his composure and begins the slow hike down to retrieve his gloves. The stream and usual cascades are under the snow. Often I can hear the water cascading below the ice. This is Randy's first time on a winter hike like this, so we take it slow up through the steep section. The snow bridge over the cascading stream is our last major obstacle before reaching the meadow below our destination, Upper Boy Scout Lake. From there, the half-mile section of slick rock granite makes its way through the meadow at a steep angle. We choose to continue on the north bank in the fresh snow to hike in a direction path to the lake. Often we pause to listen and watch clouds drift from the lake below up past us towards the summits. We spy the curtains of frozen waterfalls on the opposite side of the canyon. The pass towards the east face of Mount Whitney is in the next canyon, and we look forward to ascending that the next day. It takes a few hours to reach the small forest of ancient foxtail pines near the boulder field surrounding the lake. These trees have been a great place to camp before, set high out on the ridge with a huge panoramic view and away from the many busy encampments in the boulder field around the lake. The view extends in all directions, from several tall peaks to the lake basin far below. The best thing are the sounds and sights of the massive curtain of falls, frozen, lining the other side of the canyon. The falls sing in a gentle, soft voice from far away. Making camp is fun. We find a nice flat spot, dig out the powder snow, and set up the tent. We also build a small wall around the tent with a little sheltered cooking area in front. The camp spot is nestled at the top edge of an ancient foxtail pine forest, and there are a few dead relics sticking out of the snow nearby. These are beautiful trees, old and weather-worn, burnt sienna color and turning to a raw sienna yellow as their strong dead trunks slowly decay. We begin to make some lunch as it is about 11 and we are very hungry from the hard hike. After lunch, we take a short nap. It continues to snow off and on, with the gentle flurries arriving with the constant passing clouds. When we wake from our nap, we walk the quarter-mile up to the boulder field surrounding the lake. With 10 feet of snow still on the ground, it is easy to walk through the tall boulders as they are half buried. We walk through the snow field with the frozen streams hidden below. The lake seems a white jewel, surrounded by snowfields rising abruptly to the granite walls. The walls of the amphitheater rise on 3 sides in vertical towers over 1,000 feet, with white circling clouds at their top. At the back of this huge bowl rises the massive and amazingly beautiful Mount Russell. Some guidebooks say that this is the most beautiful peak in all the Sierra. I have climbed this wonderful peak and I can't disagree. From where we sit along the lake, the view rises over 3,000 feet up the sheer wall of Mount Russell's south face. We find a spot along the edge of the lake where the water is flowing into the stream and the ice is melted. We pump some water and then move on along the edge of the frozen lake. Golden trout sneak by in the clear teal-blue glacial water. We walk along the edge of the lake in the soft snow, heading for the back end where the waters flow into it from the canyon above. The snow slopes in at the steep angle, and it is very difficult to see where the edge of the lake is. We stay about 10 to 20 feet from where the snowbank merges with the lake surface. The lake has a thin layer of ice, yet it is covered with fresh snow, making it blend with the snowbanks. I've swam in it in summer. I know it is very deep and dangerous. As we walk along in this unbelievable scene, it begins to get even more spectacular. The clouds envelop the bowl and slowly sink down on us until our visibility is only about 200 feet. At times along the edge of the lake, the snow has melted to reveal the clear green ice sheet, glowing with its pure bright color. As we continue around the lake and the clouds sink down on us, it begins to appear as if we are on top of the world. This is a pure white world where the brilliant light filters down from the heavens. Clouds and mists to shine with such intensity that without dark sunglasses I would go blind. We continue towards the far end, and our path becomes lost in the light and mists. The white mists and light begin to merge with the white and the light of the frozen lake until it becomes one. We are totally enveloped in a light so brilliant, so beautiful, that we are filled with the feeling of complete peace. It is a silent scene out of heaven. When we reach the back end of the lake, there is a group of boulders. Randy takes a perch atop one of a few yards back, and I find a smaller one just along the edge of the lake. The stream flows just below the ice and snow all around us. We sit silent and in wonder for many minutes. The white heavenly light suspends time and thoughts. Where are we? Heaven? The Himalayas? This gives us a joy and hope for the struggles of the civilized world down in the valleys. To be in such a state, such a dreamlike experience, it is like all the years of struggle that had come before were all worth it and had led us up to this moment and led us to this place. There are no thoughts of fear or the desire to see and find our way out to safety. This is our way out, and never before have we felt so safe or so at ease. The only fear is that we know it will end, this moment, this day, and then eventually life. With that thought, the sky begins to clear just enough so that we can differentiate the sky from the surface of the lake. We can even see a few rocks appearing on the other side of the lake. We step off our own rocks and begin the short walk out of the sanctuary. At the far end, we stop again to pump some more water before heading through the boulder field to camp. The clouds continue to clear, at least to the point of rising up off the lake to reveal the huge bowl and all the peaks. Always, though, the clouds swirl and move so that just as glorious sights emerge, sending light streaming along a ridge or peak, Air quickly shifts into shadow again. When we reach camp, it is nearing sunset, and the sun has recently hidden itself behind the giant wall of the Sierra crest. I begin to make dinner by doing the usual ritual of melting and boiling snow. Randy goes on a short walk up onto the ridge above our camp and towards the ledges that are the base of the massive gully leading up towards Mount Russell. The peak becomes progressively clearer after the sun passes out of sight and begins the long and slow evening descent. The valley below continues to swirl with clouds, and a gentle wind begins to fall from above, bringing fresh, cool air from Mount Whitney. We enjoy a long dinner below an infinite heaven of stars. I am well fed and ready to sleep, but we spark into one of our usual and continual conversations. We sit in our warm clothes in the snow amidst a view equal to infinity. We tell stories and take turns seeing meteors, and at times we even sit silent to let the world get a word into the conversation. Across the canyon, at our same level, a large lake empties onto the wide wall, creating a waterfall several hundred feet wide and equally as high. The entire waterfall is a series of steps dripping down in a frozen array of ice columns and bubbles. This falls, while frozen, has an amazing personality, and it speaks calmly and with a subtlety often overlooked. At night, as it freezes, and its voice becomes even more subtle and quiet. But now the wind has slowed, and the birds are all asleep, and we can hear the voice of the frozen falls whispering. The Milky Way becomes very bright as the clouds and moisture pull down into the low valley. I try, as I always do, to stay up and enjoy the stars, but I am falling asleep and soon crawl into the tent and my warm sleeping bag. Randy comes in a short while later. It is clear, so we sleep with the tent door open to let the sky in. I wake to a bright light that I think is the sun. I have to pee. I get up, put on my boots, and go out into the snow to walk around. It is not the sun after all, just the big moon shining with brilliance through the tent door and into our eyes. I am fortunate to get this chance to absorb a little bit more of the silence and the beauty of the High Sierra night with the snow glowing on all the peaks. Sunday we wake to an amazing alpenglow, as the sun rises and casts its early morning light high into our alpine dream. While the valley is still trapped in night, the light comes to our tent door and illuminates the entire High Sierra in a brilliant fiery orange. After the sun rises, we get out of the tent to greet the clear, windless day. We begin to eat some breakfast of hot oatmeal, dried fruit, brown sugar, and tea. After we have our fill, we begin packing for our day hike. The landscape is pure white, only interrupted by the granite popping out of the snow and rising as massive walls. The sky is a clear, deep blue, penetrated by the glaring hot alpine sun. We begin up across the slope to climb through the boulder field below the lake. We cross over the stream bed, cut deep in the granite, yet buried under snow, and go up the steep slope towards the next bowl. We use our crampons, spikes over our boots, and make our way securely yet slow. We move one step at a time, curving up the steep grade. The heat quickly overwhelms us. The sun is reflecting on the smooth snow like a mirror, and we are like little ants walking across this mirror, frying. I put on more clothes to protect myself from the sun, and to my dismay, Randy removes his shirt like he is at the beach. I try to convince him to cover his skin, but he refuses, and we continue up in the blinding white snow. There I am, dressed like an Eskimo, climbing up the snow, yelling up at Randy. He just looks back with his shirt on his head and says, "Yeah, sure, it's too fucking hot." We find an occasional shaded ledge as a boulder rises out of the snow and casts a small shadow. It is like we are hiding from the sky in a science fiction movie as we huddle in the shade under a rock. Up we continue, through the nearly trackless snowfield, and into the moraine below the spectacular east face of Mount Whitney. It is an unexplainable feeling to see this giant wall. You slowly round the corner while following the ridge and into the bowl. The wall rises higher and higher with its huge Keeler and Day needles. Pinnacle Ridge walls the south side with all its granite teeth along the top. It appears so much bigger with snow clinging to every tiny ledge. We follow the north side, just below the ridge, until we come to the first chute that goes up into the final bowl, Iceberg Lake and the pass. The chute is always much steeper than I remember. On this trip, the snow is knee-deep at the bottom as we turn up and enter the chute. We step slowly up until we reach the rock band at the halfway point. It becomes very steep and narrow before it opens up wide again for another 100 feet. We rest in the shade of the cliff before stepping out into the chute again and continue. We push on through, looking for shallow holes to step in. Our breath labors. It is hard in the deep snow. As the crampon spikes fill with the sticky snow, I lose my footing and slide. As I pass the rock band, the face becomes very steep, and the snow quickly turns to an icy hard surface of packed snow. I struggle to find a shallow step, and it turns into a struggle to drive the front points of the crampons into the ice. My axe sticks into the face well, and it is my savior as I hang on to it and repeatedly kick my boots to get the points to stick in. I wait, look down, and work on cutting steps for Randy. I look down below to see Randy, and he is really struggling. He has no ice axe, and his crampons are not as sharp as mine, and it looks like he may give up. This is the first time doing anything like this, and the steep angle catches him by surprise. He tries to find a section of the chute that is less steep, but that is not possible. We stand there for a while, clinging to the face as we rest. I yell down to him and give a few pointers. We push on upward on shaky calves and soon make it through that section and find our way to the top. The chute opens up into the large boulder field below the massive collier of the mountaineers' route. Iceberg Lake is just on the other side of the boulders. We are now at 12,600 feet. Dead tired and have no intention of climbing the collier. It is just too much for us. We sit on rocks and enjoy the fabulous surreal view of the peaks, frozen lake, and this perfect sunny day. These friendly little birds, rosy finches, come and land on us as we sit in the snow and eat. They eat crumbs from our hands and walk on our boots. We walk around a little to get different views as the huge clouds suck and swirl above. After an hour, we begin the hike back, entering the chute very cautiously. From above, you really see just how steep it is as it rolls and drops off. It's much easier to descend, if only because Randy knows what to expect. Below the chute, we turn left and head away from the giant east face and begin down the snowfield through a wonderful silvery mist as clouds descend upon us. The snowfields reach a point where they turn a corner and drop off steeply. There we sit and look out over the snow and into the sky. Clouds rise up from below and engulf us as diffused light, bright and brilliant. We continue and turn the corner, descending the slope as clouds clear, revealing the frozen lake below. It is easy as we descend in our footsteps from before, and soon are back at camp, resting. We hide from the sun by finding shade under trees or in the tent. After a while, we walk up to the lake to pump water. Incredible displays of silvering mists play about the crags and peaks, and we watch in wonder. Sunlight dances around the peaks and snow as we climb onto a nearby cliff to get a view before sunset. We talk and walk among the ancient trees and commune with the grandeur that is the High Sierra. We eat dinner and fall peacefully off to sleep. Sunday morning greets us with a similar blazing moon and a wonderful golden sunrise. We pack slow, enjoying the coolness while it lasts. Then we prepare to hike down by putting on our crampons and packs for a spectacular descent in the snow. Most of the time, we are plunge stepping deep in the snow, and this makes us tired. The descent is rapid as the steepness causes us to move pretty fast. The view all the way down is wonderful, and I stop often to take it all in and allow Randy to catch up. At Lower Boy Scout Lake, we stop for an hour to rest and change out of our warm clothes. Entering the final steep gorge, choked with ice and snow, we are forced to make several snow bridge crossings with the stream rushing underneath. I smash my knee hard on a rock, and a few moments later Randy breaks through the ice, falling 3 feet to the stream below. A sucking black hole is just yards away as the water disappears below the ice. I escape harm and help Randy negotiate the bridge and jump over the thin and shattered ice. A short while later we come to the ledges and descend the cliffs without incident. Down the gorge we continue, and at one point we stop to look for a bag Randy had set down several days before when we stopped in the middle of the night on our way up. We find it and continue on the last painful 2 miles. We stop in town as usual to have a big breakfast at PJ's Cafe in Lone Pine before our 5-hour drive across the hot Mojave Desert. This trip is amazing. With deep and long conversations with my brother Randy, I am happy to get to take him on such an adventure and to share with him these experiences that I love so much. It is unfortunate and strange that my camera froze and did not work for the weekend because we would have some amazing sights. I suppose It is unfortunate and strange that my camera froze and did not work for the weekend, because we see some amazing sights. I suppose sights no photo would understand. Paraty, Brazil. My second trip to Brazil finally arrives. It is mid-July, and I spin with the hope and excitement of the new adventure, wanting the discoveries of this first trip to begin again. I travel once again to visit my sister Robin living in Rio, and this time my friend Monica comes along. It is Tuesday morning, and we wake slow yet euphoric from a long night of dinner and dancing downtown in the city of Lapa. From our hotel in Ipanema, we can see the lake and the view across to Corcovado and the Cristo Redentor statue. We enjoy breakfast in the hotel, overlooking the beach and the large winter surf, before riding a taxi to meet a friend and begin our journey. At our friend's house in Lagoa, we make a call to the bus station to get the times of departure and then go on a short walk to the Parque Lage. At this nearby public park, we walk the jungle gardens in the cool light of morning through the towering trees, moist caves, and quiet serenity. It is easy to get to the Roda Variara, the bus station in downtown Rio de Janeiro, to catch the bus bound for Sao Paulo and all places in between. You hear names on the loudspeaker of locations like Angra dos Reis, Ilha Grande, Trinidade, and our destination of Paraty. We purchase tickets and in a few moments board the bus, beginning the 4-hour ride along Brazil's Highway 101. Don't forget to take a seat on the left side of the bus so you can enjoy the spectacular and endless view of the tangled coast of islands, beaches, and wonderful towns. The ride begins in the heart of downtown Rio, amidst the urban density, life, and movement. The bus drivers brake and gas with the flow of traffic moving through the seemingly endless and unexplainable expanse of Rio Norte. The highway twists through the city, passing favela communities which blanket the rolling landscape, twisted and piled in random patterns. All is a sea of faces, cement, brick, and steel. Rio is a huge city, dark and struggling. After an hour, the highway climbs out of the urban valley and into the mountains before descending along the coast to the wild, narrow, and busy highway to Sao Paulo. The endless islands and mountains falling to the sea merge together into abstract layers of color and light. The combinations are infinite. Just before sunset, we reach the town of Paraty. Mountains turn a deep and magical purple-green, and the sky a turquoise glowing blue as the blaze of stars and small streetlights begin to illuminate the dusty streets of this slow-moving colonial town. The bus drives off as we shoulder our packs and walk through town. On we talk about the history of Paraty, a town made famous by the export of gold, sugarcane, pirates, and exploration. The dusty road makes a turn and enters the historic narrow streets of old Paraty, which occasionally flood due to a rising tide in the bay. The streets are paved with large, irregular granite stones sailed over from Portugal as ballast in the gold exporting gallons. The low the low-lying town rests near the water, and the galleons would pull along the shore to unload their stones in exchange for the heavy gold bound for Portugal. Small cars moving along the wet and salty streets, bumping on the rocky pavement as we walk in wonder looking at posadas. There are many to choose from, and they are all wonderful and reasonably priced. We choose the Posada Aconchego, with pleasant views into the garden courtyard and rich coffee waiting in the hallway. Much of the town is closed to vehicles, and you walk along in a romantic halo of families, restaurants, art galleries, and friends. The maze of streets leads to the park along the water in front of an old church. We stand beside the cannons pointing out to sea and looking nearby at the dock full of boats and tall ships waiting in sleep for the next day of touring. Pools of ocean water gather around the low walls, canyons and grass as the tide changes. We see the Southern Cross for the first time, and the large moon comes out from behind the mists to reflect on the bay. Later, while walking the streets, happily lost in the maze of storefronts and new faces, some sort of peaceful joy comes over us, some sort of magical and relaxing peace. We move from restaurant to cafe, talking, eating, and experiencing the undeniable wonder that is Parachi. We spend the evening listening to music and sampling the many flavorful foods to offer. We sip strong drinks and think about all the things to do. The mind races with ideas, like renting a boat for journeys to secluded islands, trips to historical sites like the Mora di Forte, many fabulous and quiet beaches, mountain hikes, waterfalls, and bike riding. During the summer, as the water's clear and warm, scuba diving becomes popular, and established rental shops are nearby to direct your every need. Parachi holds a charm and magic that penetrates our hearts from the first step onto the golden stone streets. As we choose our adventures and begin to experience the magic, we find that this feeling only grows, and our thoughts often turn to looking at ways to come back before we have even left. Parachi is the perfect destination for individuals, families, lovers, and friends, and I fall asleep in the arms of a friend deep in the wonderland of Brazil. Tropical Boat Tour. We walk for hours through the old village of Parachi, surrounded by smiles and colorful colonial buildings, thick walls, pitched roofs, and carved wooden balconies pushed up against the thick and uneven stones that pave the narrow streets. Time sifts by as we drink cachaça, eat olives, and sample the many delicious Brazilian flavors at cafes and restaurants. Music flows from the cafe doors and apartments' windows as we walk about within the euphoric and happy town of Parachi. The bay surrounding Parachi is one of the largest natural harbors in the world. The mouth of the bay is dotted with dozens of islands, protecting it from the roughness of the South Atlantic. It was through these waters that much of Brazil's early shipping and exploration was directed. It is a quiet tourist town, preparing for the next festival. We stay at the Posada Agoncheco, just one of the abundant choices of places to stay. The first morning, after a long night of fun, we wake to the quiet sounds of the birds in the patio and spoons spinning sugar into coffee cups. The gentle ping of the spoon in the cup reminds me to wake up and enter the dream of Brazil. I open the large shutters of the windows to let in the cool morning air fragrant with the smells of the ocean. I look up and notice that some rooms have views out across the tilted rooftops and through the palm trees towards the sea. My sister joins Monica and I in the patio for a breakfast of breads, cheeses, jams, juices, fruits, coffee, and many other delicious local specialties. Our adventure for the day begins with a walk through the village to the park along the water in front of a small church. The low tide from the night slowly rises and creeps back into the streets, creating puddles and the always welcome salty smell to the air. At the park along the waterfront, we stand beside the cannons that point out to sea and look nearby at the dock full of brightly colored painted boats and tall ships waiting for a day of touring. There is a bustle of people milling about the dock, workers preparing the tall ships for sail, and salesmen greet the many tourists by giving their speech as to why their tour is the best. You can be a part of a large group on a tall ship or hire a small boat for a personalized private tour. With some luck, we find a boat captain that is an old friend, Jose Carlos Ozeca, and he offers up his small boat, Aqua Labor, for a great price. It is just the five of us, the open turquoise water, the endless expanse of sky, and the calming spirit of Parachi. We sit in the sun of our boat, waiting for the tide to rise just a bit more. All the boats are leaning to one side as they are stuck and rest on the shallow, muddy bottom. It is like a slow ballet as the boats gently over time lift off the mud and lean upright in a gentle motion. The boats begin to wiggle and tug at their ropes as the cradle of water releases them from a night of leaning slumber. Soon our boat is free to slip from the dock and out into the calm waters of the bay. The day is a festival of colors, sights, and sounds. The forever views stretch towards the rugged and forested coastline with kites rising from the hidden rural neighborhoods. Off our bow, large birds glide by on their way to a secret island nest. The tour moves gently out into the calm bay, giving spectacular views of the coastline. I sit on the bow, witnessing the water cut into bubbles and spray. Dolphins come alongside us, playing and diving for a moment. We pass lonely islands, quiet beaches, and other boats cruising on their own adventures. This is the one tiny island, Isla Comprida. It is just big enough for one boat dock, a small house, and a rope bridge over to a cafe adjoining on a boulder. We pass close and head into a secluded cove in the beach Praia Vermelha. There are other party boats arriving as small skiffs come from the beach to pick people up. One tall ship has a slide, and people begin plunging into the deep green water and swimming to the beach. I join the fun and swim in. The beach is narrow, with deep green of jacaranda trees arching out over the sand. Small, beautiful shells are abundant in the sand and in between your toes. There is a wonderful cafe and posada, so we order caipirinhas and relax in the sand. Later, we board the boat and begin our slow cruise again, visiting other islands and swimming before we reluctantly reach the dock and say goodbye to Zeca, our friendly boat captain. What a beautiful day we had, and yet there is still much more to do. We have only just begun. Our thoughts turn towards the next day, the mountains, the rivers, and waterfalls. As we begin again walking the streets and sampling foods, we are enveloped in a surreal purple light of sunset. The light charms us with a magic that penetrates our hearts, and with a little luck, continues to do so. Waterfall hunting. For 2 days we enjoyed the simple magic of Parachi. Unencumbered by the stress of life, we walked the grid of old stone streets, visiting art galleries, cafes, and beaches. Beyond each wall hides a story of colorful scene, and a welcoming door will certainly swing to invite your entrance. Early in the morning, as we sit and eat breakfast, we begin our daily talk, deciding what adventures to have for the day. Over the past few days, we visited old churches, walked on lonely beaches, and sailed the endless bay of turquoise water. Our direction and passion then turned towards the mountains, the streams, and the inland splendor. After breakfast, we check out a local tourist shop where they rent bikes, kayaks, and scuba gear. We find the address in one of the many brochures available in the hotel lobby. We decide to rent bikes and begin looking at the selection. There are maps on the wall that detail several great tours. The tours follow the country roads around hills and beaches. I see one in particular that gets me all excited. There is a road that goes up the valley and into the mountains, following a stream to a waterfall. My passion for waterfalls begins as a young child, and this has grown exponentially over the years into an obsession. I have visited waterfalls throughout California, in the mountains and in the deserts. I have enjoyed visits to massive frozen ice falls in the Rocky Mountains and misty pulses of silvery water in the cloud forests of northern Mexico. A year before, I visited the mighty and unforgettable Iguazu Falls, and now there is a chance to enter a waterfall dream in Parachi. We saddle up on our old bikes and begin to pedal along the busy urban streets. These are true third world bikes, old and rusty, with one gear. It helps to bring us closer to the experience and enjoy the subtle and simple beauty of life here in Brazil. At this point, cruising the country roads back into time, it would have just been wrong to use a 24-speed mountain bike. We want the squeak of the wheels and the lack of brakes to bring the journey alive. Across the highway, we leave the town of Parachi and into the wide valley and narrow road where large trucks loaded with bamboo roar by in a haze of diesel smoke. One-horse carts pulling sugar cane create traffic jams as the locals work their daily chores. Sunshine and shifting clouds send shafts of color across the road as we breathe the wind and absorb the wonder. The road continues up a little hill and through the community of Ponte Branca. The thick forest moves alongside the road, hiding the many homes and the paths along the stream. There we find a rope bridge that crosses the stream, lock our bikes, and explore the area before continuing up the steep road. The rope bridge is draped with flags of many nations, looking like a bridge I imagined would be in the Himalaya. By now, the thick green mountains are all around us, and towering trees bend over to grant us shade. After a steeper section, which forces us to walk our bikes, we reach a small cafe and store. Across the street is an old church, and we notice on our map that the waterfall, Cachoeira de Tubagão, is just off in the distance through the bamboo forest. We relax at the cafe, having a drink and looking out at the huge panoramic of trees, mountains, and sky. The friendly people at the cafe let us lock our bikes behind their shop. Then we begin the short walk along the trail to the stream. 3 young girls that we saw floating around the cafe on their bikes are now playing and giggling along the swirling waters of the stream. We hear their laughter and see their smiles through the gentle sway of jungle trees. Emerald foliage and tall epiphyte-filled trees complete the view to the sky. A quick stream passes over large granite boulders, making cascades and pools with plenty of slick rock to lounge on. We find a perfect place, still and beautiful. I play in the cascades of icy water as my friends sit in the sun. I follow the stream, hopping over boulders up and around a bend. I suddenly come to a large pool with a beautiful waterfall at the end. The water is deep green and glowing. I remember a quote my sister and travel companion told me: "Sempre em qualquer viagem, o rio é o companheiro melhor." Always on any journey, the river is the best companion. Written by João Cabral de Melanote. He had recently just died. I quickly hopped the boulders back to my friends to tell them of the discovery of the amazing green pool. In moments we are all sitting within the dream of the pool and gazing into the sunlight sifting through huge emerald trees. Large white flowers drape down along the water, and a myriad of colorful butterflies slip by in silent song. It is a silent song that hums to us and enters our hearts. Parachi delivers to us yet another experience, joyous and lasting. It isn't costly, it isn't difficult, it is just a simple experience far away from the bustle and urban sprawl of Rio de Janeiro. Try, if you can, to be open to these simple experiences, subtle shifts of light through trees, darting voices of birds and bees, whispering water over rocks and towards the sea. If you're lucky, take the chance and visit Parachi, for amidst a life of giving Brazilian waterfall, you will experience a sense of joy and a sense of peace during a day of adventure in Parachi, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Death and Thanksgiving. I can't remember what the day is. Saturday, I think. My girlfriend Monica and I are stopping by my parents' house to pick up some big surfboards to go for an ocean paddle. We are on our way to my childhood playground of Goldfish Point and the La Jolla Caves. It is a place I spend a lot of time at. Recently, it has become even more meaningful, and today will put it in a whole new perspective. Well, my oldest brother Randy, you see, he is my best friend, has been for many years. We share a lot of memories together and struggles. I was just 18 when we went off to Hollywood together with our other brother Pat and our rock and roll band Indian Summer to try to make it big. We go way back. At this time, he is working at the Goldfish Point Cafe and either living in their garage or on the street. I would drive by there early mornings sometimes before work and find him cold and hungry, sitting on a curb down by the ocean. We had been meeting a lot to swim at the cove or in the caves. Sometimes as we paddled or swam around inside the cave, he would quickly jump up on a rock, pull a bar of soap from his board shorts, and then bathe. We shared a lot of fun times. Just a few days ago, I had met him at Jose's for dinner, and it was the last time I saw him. He was quiet and nervous. My girlfriend was with me. He looked great, healthy, and strong. Monica and I stop at the house, and Mom comes to me and pulls me aside. Randy died, she says. He drowned. Some fishermen found his body 2 miles out at sea off the point of La Jolla. The coroner said he had been out there 5 days. It is strange and shocking how I feel both sad and relieved. I hold it together and we go on with our paddle mission. It is the right thing to go out where he drowned. We were planning it anyways, and Monica wants to go. First, we drive to the cafe to say hi to our lifelong friend, Claude Marengo, the owner of the cafe. We go into the garage and pick up Randy's things, a bike, a blanket, and a backpack. Of course, there is his guitar. We take the stuff home. After we walk to some people who were with him when he drowned, it appears when he dove into the ocean and didn't come up, they got scared and just didn't tell anyone. That was a week ago, and today a fisherman found him a mile out. We launch our boards from in front of the Marine Room restaurant as usual and make our way out past the reef towards the caves. The day is clear and the water cold. Out near the caves we say some prayers to the ocean and to the dolphins we can't see that we believe he has become. It is a fitting burial ground for him. This is his home and where his spirit always has been. That alone helps me to move to the next level, to the next step in my life on my journey of discovery. So boom, there it is. Suddenly, a life comes to an end, and we are forced with the planning of his memorial and the changes that brings. Family comes together as we open our home to the community for the overflow of a life lived with passion that touched many lives. This week changes my life in many ways that I hope to one day understand. In 3 days it is Thanksgiving, and we work to put it all together for a Thanksgiving funeral. It is very stressful, but it helps to take our minds off the truth that Randy is dead. Dad calls the newspaper, and my brothers and sisters begin calling all the friends for Sunday. Luckily for all of us, his lifelong friend and soulmate is here, Raina Grigg. She has seen as much as me, maybe more, and we all needed to be together for this. He was hopefully on his way to be with her soon, as she had recently moved back to her childhood home in Hawaii. I know that over time her friendship will become very important. I had been so close to Randy, but more than any other person, he really pissed me off, and I hated finding him on the street, seeing him hurt and sad. I think that is why his death became a Thanksgiving. You see, he was in so much pain, and it was nice to know that he was not in pain anymore. Most of all, for all the living, we didn't have to worry about him anymore. We could go to bed knowing that Randy was not roaming the streets of La Jolla looking for a place to rest, a place to be at peace. At the least, the whole thing freaked us all out, and the worst it sent some of us into a wild tailspin of confusion, pain, and guilt. I find myself become very relieved and selfishly sad that I lost my greatest guide, my closest friend. At his funeral, I sang some new songs I had just written and gave a short speech about his life and his passing. Here it is: a celebration of life. Randy Oleata Memorial, Thanksgiving weekend, 1999. Randy Oleata, 1961 to 1999. Good morning and welcome. Notice all the old faces around, and notice once again what an incredibly beautiful day it is in this amazing city of La Jolla. I wish to thank everyone for being here today, for me, for our family, for Randy, and especially for his son Dylan, to commune in his celebration of love, respect, and remembrance of a powerful life that will and should not be forgotten. I feel that I am very lucky to know Randy and to have been able to share so many adventures with him. His mind truly overflowed with amazing ideas and gifts of which he strove to share with us all. His time, though, was short and his struggles great, so that it seemed that he was fighting to stay alive at every turn. What is important to me, to you, to Dylan, what is important is to recognize and know what an amazing positive impact he had on me, our family, this community, and the world. What is important to remember and keep alive his voice, his love, his energy, and desire to understand the world, to help people. What is important to look around and see that he touched people and his life was a success. The task now that we have, the task of defining Randy is impossible. He to me is magic, undefinable, unbelievable. The most important thing now is that we must see through the darkness, this fog of confusion and conflicts that surrounds his life and his death. We must embrace and let go of any of the guilt or pain that engulfs us for the things we feel we did not do for Randy. We must, in our task of defining Randy, bring forward and hold high in our hearts and minds all the infinitely beautiful things that are Randy Christopher Oleata. So in the spirit of defining the undefinable, clear your minds now. Put yourself in a peaceful place, on the coast walk above the caves, or on the knoll above Blacks overlooking the sea. In your minds, in the open space you have created for Randy, add to what I say. Expand on my thoughts. Bring to life my words in your hearts, and pray that Dylan will learn of the amazing things that we know Randy to be. Randy, I miss you. I need you. You are the mystic, the shaman, the healer. You are my guide. You take on my struggles and do battle so I may be victorious. You strive to understand our purpose as a people and to find ways to communicate that to others. Randy, you know me. As the sun knows every blade of grass, I strove to be in your light, to learn, to find strength, to grow. You are my teacher. From you I learned compassion, love, kindness, openness, freedom, communication, and much more. Randy, you smile and touch people with your love. What I see here now is a dream to me. My hopes and dreams realized as I see before me a mass of eyes gathered to rejoice an incredible person in life. What I see is what I always knew and hoped others would learn, that Randy touched people, that Randy made a great impact on people's lives, that Randy's gift of love was at work through him and through those that knew him. His smile lives on through our smile. Being as Randy is my closest friend, my greatest leader, my brother, see him in me. Know that he lives on in me. So now, in your own way, rejoice the beautiful life that is Randy Christopher Oleata. I gotta wipe my eyes. And we continue the next story. Y2K on the North Shore. It is Friday and the day begins with the usual excitement of a weekend arriving, but this day has so much more. It is the last day of the year, of a millennium, and a Hawaiian-style slowness. I'll start over. Y2K on the North Shore. It is Friday, and the day begins with the usual excitement of a weekend arriving, but this day has so much more. It is the last day of the year, of a millennium, and we are in Hawaii. We begin the day early yet slow, trying to absorb Reina's aloha and Hawaiian-style slowness. We make the usual loads of coffee and have wonderful conversations during a pancake breakfast. I call an old friend on the North Shore, Joe Lazar. I am coming out to the North Shore today, I say. Get your butt over here, he replies. It is 8 feet and reeling. We talk a little of how to meet, but he is busy with his restaurant and can't make any plans. I ask him about his car, and he describes the old rusted thing so that I may run into him. Robin continues to pack her bag and get ready for the day as I sit in the garden and talk with Raina. She picks weeds from an area she says she has weeded since a child. As the sun peeks through the morning's tropical swirl of clouds, she looks up from the grass to say, "It is so calming and healing to sit here and pull at those weeds, with the grass against my knees and the feeling that I am connected to this house, this place, this island. It is wonderful. I expect to see this done when I come back," I joke. "They just keep growing back," she says. When my good friend Johnny Bannon arrives, we get right in the car and split. He has 3 surfboards and plenty of gas, so we are on our way. Johnny explains the trade wind pattern so I will understand how infrequently it gets good and how it only lasts a few hours. But today the winds are cooperating and we may get lucky. The drive is wonderful, and you never forget the point when the road dips down, the pineapple fields stretch out below as a green carpet, and the vast ocean appears, revealing the North Shore. At this point you still can't see the sand, but the waves are big, and they can be seen breaking far out. We know that the wind is perfect in seeing the ocean surface calm. Coming into the main road along the beach is wonderful, full of surfers, cameramen, and tourists. We drive slowly past many spots breaking good: Haleiwa, Laniakea, Chun's Reef, Pupakea, Waimea, and many more. They all seem very big to me. Hawaii calls it 6 to 8 feet, which translates to 12 to 20 feet in California, so I am pumped. We stop occasionally to look at some spots. Most are scary and pounding. I am getting a little nervous and very excited. We stop at the Bonsai Pipeline, which looks deadly, and Rocky Point looks equally scary. We stop at the famous Sunset Beach. Most of the North Shore has private homes right on the sand, with occasional pathways to walk down to the beach. Sunset Beach has a special wide beach with a parking lot and a few houses. It is, of course, a popular stop for this reason alone. Also, there are the amazing waves breaking far out and a steep beach giving beachgoers a perfect view of the ocean games. We walk out onto the thick sand with all the others to watch the waves. The big beach sweeps out in both directions, culminating in rocky points on either side. Riptides suck surfers out through the channel in the middle as big sets roll in haphazardly and unpredictably. It is bumpy and shifty, and I watch in awe, knowing the mindset I would have to take in order to conquer one of those big ugly peaks. I see a lot of waves come during a short time, unorganized, with sneaker nets rising and pounding the unsuspecting pack of surfers. Boards fly, and people dive for the bottom as unridden waves take their toll on the pack. "It looks like a lot of work," Johnny says. "People are getting pounded." I agree, and we talk about the powerful inside section as one rolls in, and then we jump in the truck and head back the way we came to check other spots. We drive back to Kawailoa Beach and Chun's Reef. We can't see the ocean from the car as we unload the boards. Johnny takes the 710 pintail single fin, an amazing Lopez reproduction, and I take the 10-foot pintail single fin. I ride mostly a thick 9-footer back home, and in these crazy waves I want something big, something to help me match the power. I remember back at the house as Raina was concerned for me and said, "Someone will have a gun for you out there to ride. You got it. It's big." She was right. It would not make sense for me to have a small board, so my friend Johnny set me up good. We walk through the path onto a steep sandy beach with deadly lava rocks along the shore. Just in front is a sandy area and a channel that surfers are paddling out through. The break to the left is Jocko's Reef, and to the right is Chun's Reef. Both have big, clean sets rolling in, but Chun's is closed out, and some of the Chun's rights break through the channel. We drop on the sand to tie on the leashes and get ready to go out. I have the pleasure of getting to wax up a fresh surfboard. Johnny has this special board, a solid red 10-foot gun. It is beautiful, and he gives me the gift of being able to ride it. He had it saved in his apartment for a special occasion, and this is it. I go through the ritual of waxing the board, a rare and fun thing to do. Then a few stretches, a prayer, and a final look out into the sea, and I am off through the pounding shore break, between the gateway of lava rocks. Johnny is not far behind, and I push out through big rollers coming through the channel. It is not hard to get out, but the power of the waves is clear and evident as you feel and see the ocean roll in explosions of foam. The crowd is small, about 10 guys at most. The waves are bigger than I thought, but slow, and I study the other surfers for a moment before I reach the peak to see guys taking off on impossibly steep and late drops, making them with no problem. This makes me very confident, and I paddle right into the pack to set up on the outside to catch a few. The first 3 are big and exciting, but I am in front of another guy on 2, so I have to kick out. I proceed to catch over 10 more waves, with some coming from deep behind the peak. On my 4th wave, I get a big one, taking off deep and far outside. After the amazing drop in first section, I come up from the speeding flats to settle and trim in the pocket. I look out at the panoramic of the beaches and peaks towards Waimea Bay, just up the bend. Then suddenly, I see the section ahead begin to swell and prepare to break, like a giant cornice of snow breaking off a cliff in front of me. I am afraid to attempt the tube, and I turn down towards the bottom to go around the breaking part of the wave. The crest breaks big and quick, like a hurling wall in front of me. I am not quick enough, and as I speed down, attempting to pass below the wave, it breaks just next to me, causing a sudden, severe crash. The last instant I see the curl of the wave in front of me, I wonder at its beauty as it grows in size and nears to me. I merge with the wave as it breaks in a massive explosion. Breathing stops, and blackness absorbs my life as an instantaneous and natural state of calm envelops my body. I feel a sudden thrust as my body folds in half from the blast, and I am hurled in the air with the spray of the wave. It is a weightless and silent moment before, after a few moments, the entire wave lands on top of me, crushing me in a spinning descent towards the deep reef below. I open my eyes to see the green lights and plumes of bubbles flashing by during the ride. Thoughts of relaxation and not to breathe envelop my mind as I continue to spin down deep. Luckily, I am not pulled to ride the breaking wave over again for a terminal second ride underwater, and when I feel the subtle release of the wave, I struggle to the surface through the thick foam for my first breath of air. I pull from my surfboard and look for the next wave coming in to roll over me. I paddle out slow, feeling lower back pain, and I breathe deeply. I look at a guy on a big wave as he comes across the inside section. I see how the wave swells at that point and tubes over the shallow reef. The guy got a quick yet big tube at the same spot where I got crushed. I reach the outside to sit along Johnny and talk a few about the wave. I realize that my watch has been taken by the sea and it now must rest deep within the coral reef. I continue then to catch more and bigger waves. A few times we are all caught by surprise as big sets come in from far out. We all try to push our boards over the cresting wave, hoping that it will not pull us all over with the breaking curl. Then another as we paddle survival or victory. After a long wave, as I paddled out, I see a board free and floating in the impact zone. It is sure to be taken into the beach to the wall of lava rocks where it will be destroyed. I take a chance and paddle into the impact zone, paddling hard to save the board. Several waves come crashing through, which tosses me and the board further in. I reach it just in time and hold the leech in my mouth as I paddle out through the few waves. The local guy whose board it is comes swimming in, and though he does not show it, I know he is thankful. I make a quick paddle to get out of this death zone and back in the channel, heading out to the peak. Next, I catch a big one, and maybe it's a 15-foot vase. I do a slow, long bottom turn, hanging back with the breaking part of the wave. Nearing the inside, I turn up to the trim in the pocket as the wave begins to swell and steepen. I use my new hard-won experience to react in unison with the wave as it breaks in front of me in a perfect, curling tube. The same panoramic catches my attention as the world tunes to swirling blue. The sounds sing in a spinning whisper, almost silent and dreamlike. As I hold still in the tube, I can see a man below paddling out and approaching the wave. I come out of the tube and kick out of the wave just as he comes up over it as well. I coast up alongside of him as we both paddle out. The guy looks at me in stride and says, "Nice tube." To my surprise, as I look at the familiar face, I see that it's Joe Lazar. "Hi," I say, as we laugh and talk together on our way back out. After that, I get a few more and then take one all the way to the beach. It is an amazing day, sunny, with subtle winds, and a view from Waimea to Kaina Point. As I approach the beach on my last wave, I avoid the lava rocks to reach the sand met by Johnny and Robin. Robin has binoculars and says she saw every wave I caught. We relax while watching Joe get a bunch of great waves. Robin takes a walk down the beach while I catch my breath and drink water. We actually hope on this day, New Year's Eve, 1999, that the Y2K computer bug will shut down the world and keep us trapped here forever. The Kalalau. If you are seeking adventure and a mighty awakening, in some respects, a chance to relax and see the colors of the deep Pacific is enough. But much more awaits you. This place, Hawaii, will take root in your heart and grow. That's exactly what I need as I feel partially numb and asleep from the death of my brother. My divorce was the first wound, like a long, sharp knife hidden in my belly, and Randy's death was poison and salt into what little roots of love I had begun to grow. In short, I need Hawaii, the friendship of my sister Robin and Raina's love as fertilizer on my soul. Just 2 weeks before the trip, a card came from my friend Johnny Bannon, who is in the Coast Guard and stationed in Hawaii. Johnny says, "Aloha, brother. Got your card today. Stoked you are still coming. See you on the 27th. Surf's been good. I got 9 boards over here, so you're covered. Went to Kauai for Thanksgiving. Scored good Honolulu. Saw all the PB La Jolla Cliffs, expatriates. Well, brother, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you soon." I then began my planning and packing, which lasted for weeks, checking and rechecking the gear lists and looking forward to my trip. My sister Robin and I spend a week in Honolulu with our friends, the Griggs, before continuing on to Kauai. The view on the short flight is amazing as we can see the towering cliffs and crystal waters of Kauai. Warm, moist air bathes our skin as we exit the plane and get our bags. We call a taxi and take us on the 1-hour drive around the island to the other end and the end of the road and the Nepali coast, the Kalalau Trail. This is the north side of the island, dominated by the 20-mile stretch of the Nepali State Park and other forest reserves. The area is famous for its massive and steep ridges that fall dangerously into the sea. The 11-mile Kalalau Trail is the only way in or out on the Nepali coast, and it ends at the enormous mystical sanctuary of the Kalalau Valley and Beach, just below the largest of the towering cliffs. The first day of the hike, we passed through the Hanakapiai Valley on a steep trail, muddy and rocky. It meanders through the amazing jungle trees and plants that appear to grow in front of you. We camp in the valley along the stream. In the morning, we visit the enormous granite pool and adjoining 400-foot waterfall before starting our day of hiking. We pack our gear at dawn, stepping over the large toads on the jungle floor and begin the trail up out of the jungle valley and onto the cliff trails. Off in the distance can be seen waves breaking against the outer reef of a secluded beach. Once in a while, you must look up. To look up is often to put your hand on the lava rock cliff face that the trail hangs upon, and you look up these faces, boiling with jungle plants and flowers, towards the emerald spires, ridges, and trees dangling like ribbons. This gives way to hiking rules like no looking around while you hike. Keep your eyes and your feet on the trail along the precipitous ledges. Don't sit down with your pack on. It can cause you to lose your balance. These rules we repeat to ourselves in the hope that we will not walk off the edge while spinning in the eyes of wonderment. We spend another night in a similarly magnificent jungle valley above the sea cliffs before hiking to the last turn on the trail at its highest point. 800 feet above the sea, you turn a corner and look into the giant Kalalau Valley and ribbon ring of emerald towers and waterfalls. There are Jurassic plants in impossible ocean colors, white, huge birds with long tails, and the constant arrival of pleasant smells on the wind. The last mile is painfully steep and exposed to the hot sun. The trail descends a bit into the bushes, where we rest in the shade and eat a snack before continuing on to the wide, rushing Kalalau stream. The crossing is a little difficult, as we have to pass the packs from hand to hand over rapids between rocks. I fall in and get my shoes wet again, but we make it across with the packs dry. The view up the giant towers keeps us in awe as we enter the beach and look for campsites. We camp among others below the shaded canopy of guava plum trees. 100 feet behind the cliffs rise. Boulders are piled up as a reminder from above of the dangerous cliffs. On the other side, the beach is just yards away. We take long walks collecting shells and absorbing the hot sun. With no moon or clouds, the stars are amazing, revealing new unseen constellations. The tide is low, and the wide, shallow sandbar offers walking in the water safe from the powerful and dangerous surf not far away. Bioluminescent bugs are in the sand and water, illuminated as I walk or swim. Then it is back to camp to fall asleep under the dense canopy of trees in a hot tropical night. The sounds of the rising surf and tide keep us company as crazy dreams enter our minds. This Nepali coast is a strange place. No watch to keep track of times or days, no moon to measure the night, and a timelessness that emanates from the guests. I continued to sleep deep yet poorly, waking often from wild dreams I choose not to remember. With the tent open, we can see the silhouettes of the trees and bushes with the glowing stars in between. As I lay and listen to the sea, I begin to see the subtle glow of dawn. I walk out to the beach barefoot and with a flashlight to stretch and stargaze. The surf has increased dramatically overnight, and it is fun to watch the waves slowly become visible in the morning light. We walk collecting shells. Way down the coast there is a huge cloud break cresting off the point with incredible offshore winds sending spray high into the air. This place is truly a sheltered sanctuary. Nature created its own guards of the cliffs and sea, and man keeps his machines and helicopters and boats just far enough away to keep it free. This strange community of Kalalau is trapped in a dream, or it hopes to be. The death of Randy brought this trip because it heightened my usual desires for escape and adventure. I dreamed up this trip and just made it happen. La Jolla Trails. In just a few weeks, I leave on a great adventure. My friend and my father, friend Jim Skelly, and I will be going to tour through Nepal, to Kathmandu, to Lhasa, Tibet, and hopefully gaze upon the plumed mountain of Chomolungma, Mount Everest, mother goddess of the snows. I know when I'll return, I'll want to go right to the beach, to swim, surf, and hike the cliff trails to the ocean. During these warm autumn days, a long walk to the beach is a must, and I know you'll enjoy this childhood path of mine and the walk to Scripps Pier. It was back in late July, sunny and warm at dawn. I had the day off and I want to to train harder as I prepare for a trip to the mountains. Often I load my pack, put on my boots, and hike the trails of La Jolla. As I wake and begin moving about the house, I see my mother and ask her if she would like to go on a hike to the SIO trail to the beach. She likes the idea, and soon we begin walking north on La Jolla Village Drive to Torrey Pines Road. At La Jolla Shores Drive, go west and continue a few small blocks and park in front of the open field on the right. On the western edge of the field is a trail beneath the eucalyptus trees. Taking the trail up and across the street brings you to a forest of trees and a huge panoramic of the bay. Following the trail down, you cross a small street, La Jolla Shores Lane. Turn right and walk past a few houses and find the path to the edge of the cliff and Mushroom House Lookout, or Black's South Lookout, I often call it. Return to the main street and turn right on Biological Grade, entering the Scripps Institute of Oceanography Fisheries area. Continue down the steep street, staying to the west for fine views. The road turns and ends as you continue following the paths and small secret trails along the cliff. Scripps Pier and the beach are directly below, and the trail is steep and rocky now. Continue down until you reach the last offices and the grass above the beach. As my mother and I walk, we laugh and talk. I ask her questions about her childhood, and she recalls stories with a smile, memories of very young, pre-teen, swimming at the children's pool and out around the point to the cove. From the beach, turn north and continue below the cliffs on the rocky shore. Enjoy exploring the abundant tide pools. The rocky trail turns the corner, revealing the endless panoramic of Black's Beach and Torrey Pines Beach. Around the corner, you're back on the sand. A peculiar mushroom-shaped house sits behind a large seawall on the beach. Above, a scary elevator carries the guests to the mushroom house. Walking along the beach a short ways, look up at the cliff and see a small canyon cutting down. A trickle of water flows off the last rocks into the sand. This is the bottom of South Trail. There, my mom and I stand and rest. The view is amazing, forever. Going up South Trail is easy. Just be careful on the narrow trail, and when the trail forks, go left. Animal sightings are frequent. This will bring you up the left side of the canyon onto the grassy knoll above the sea. The main road is not far, La Jolla Farms Road. Go right and soon reach La Jolla Shores Drive, where you go right again to reach your car. It may sound just like a list of directions or descriptions, but for me it is a journey back in time to my youth, those first days out free and exploring. We all have places we call home, places full of memory. Visit this trail and make it one of yours. Baja Surf Safari. After a quick stop at the bank ATM, we drive off towards Mexico. It is 4 a.m. and the San Ysidro border crossing is quiet. The stars and city lights blend together and the highway streams past our window. We stop in Ensenada for gas, then drive up into the mountains at dawn to reach the beach mesa with views to the blue sea. We have a long 5-hour drive, stopping in Camalú for gas, then El Rosario for the market and more gas. 14 miles later, we turn off the main highway at Punta San Carlos, continuing for 35 miles on a slow dirt road through arroyos and the giant cordon cactus forest. In the land of tilting mesas, we come to the bluff above the sea. We pull off the road into a small sandy alcove of the inner point, set up camp, and go surfing. The wind blows and sucks the cresting waves. We paddle out from our camp for a few waves as sets break continuously. It sure is windy, everyone says, over and over again. We come in and sit around eating, drinking, and snacking all afternoon, waves charging in against the ferocious offshore. The view is of the low Baja coast stretching out to the horizon. We have time to walk through the bubbling tide pools before evening sets in. It is beautiful, but the evening becomes the night of the winds. No fire, no dinner, winds blowing sand so hard that we have to wear sunglasses. We play guitar and laugh until 8 p.m. and then go out tide pooling with my new flashlight. We see starfish, crabs, and mini shells. We play dominoes in the tent until I fade off to sleep. Patrick shares a tent with Robin, and I sleep in my own tent alone. I can hear them giggling, trapped in their game and wind. The gusty wind continues all night. Patrick's tent contorts in the wind, near collapse. My tent has a mesh covering to keep it cool, but clouds of fine sand come through the mesh. It is a night of sandy, windy hell. Just before dawn, I get up and begin packing my gear. As the sun rises, Patrick and Robin wake up laughing at their tent, which is a contorted mess. We quickly pack and are on the road again by 6:45 a.m., driving along the bluff road out towards the end of the point. We stop at the main peak and watch as big sets roll through. It looks pretty good, with the wind not blowing very hard. This is the spot I had dreamed of surfing for years, but it isn't quite ready today. We decide to move on and drive to the outer peaks. At the edge of the 30-foot bluff and the outer cove, we stop. Big rights break into the cove, for it is high tide, unlike the day before when we watched it and the reef was dry. We put on our wetsuits, grab our boards, climb down the cliff and into the water as solid sets break and peel into the outer cove. Sometimes the left goes towards the cars, breaking hard to die on the inside. I catch a few set waves. Robin catches one, and I ride behind her twice. I stay near her because big rogue waves come from time to time, and the beach is mostly cliffs. Patrick drops in on me. Robin is in his way and gets pitched onto him, hitting his shins. My last wave is big and breaking hard. Robin and I go in together with Pat right behind. He beats us up the cliff and we meet at the car as he makes a breakfast of chorizo, potatoes, eggs, coffee, and tortillas. All the while we sit 50 feet from the cliff, overlooking the bay and big surf. An amazing location. We relax for an hour. I sit on the edge of the cliff. Pat sleeps and Robin walks along the bluff. Around 11 a.m. we begin the drive out, stopping at the main peak. Then driving is slow over the 30 miles of dirt road before we hit the highway. Robin takes over the driving, and I relax and drink a beer as the road swerves back and forth. Twice we stop at old closed gas stations. A truck is nearby, selling 5-gallon containers out of a 50-gallon drum. I drive from the last stop where we get gas, and it is just 6 miles to the turnoff. The road we turn onto is an easy dirt road, only 15 miles long. In minutes we come upon the flat, low mesa along the point. We begin the drive out to the end where we can see waves breaking. We stop at the inner point break. I stay at a good campsite as Pat and Robin drive to the outer point looking for a better spot. They soon return and I follow Pat to the outer point where each campsite has a rock wall built from beach rocks, thus the name, The Wall. The campsite is incredible and the surf is beautiful. I change into my wetsuit and paddle out to catch a few waves just as the sun is setting. Then we have a great evening, playing guitar around the campfire as we eat. We are asleep by 9 p.m. I sleep outside under an incredibly clear sky full of stars with the sound of the pounding surf just yards away. To top it off, there is a gentle sea breeze to cool my sunburned face. This was my first trip this far into Baja. We traveled over 400 miles and were so lucky to score clear skies and spectacular waves. Over the next few days, we surfed twice a day, ate, and slept. The sounds of the crashing waves never slept, and each glance towards the sea, we would see another person ride a wave that may have been the longest I had ever seen. We were in our element, our dream, and taking our own turns at the longest wave. It was a week of adventure and perfection along Baja California's Pacific coast on a surf safari of our dreams. It was also healing to be together, a sister and two brothers, on a vacation to share a brief and yet infinite moment on our journey of discovery. Autumn Walks of Reflection. For the first time, or 1,000 times, the Torrey Pines Glider Port is an amazing location to spend a day, afternoon, or an evening. With the autumn events of 9/11, so many things have changed in America and the world. It is a time of reflection, for the winds have changed, and yet the future is as before, uncertain. The inland heat and coastal fog of summer are passing, and the warm Santa Ana winds have arrived. Soon I hope to be hiking through the Himalayas, en route to the base of Mount Everest in Nepal and Tibet. I think of all the places I want to go, amazing places, and I think of travels and adventures I have had. I recall my many memories of the glider port, standing on the open high cliffs with a view out beyond infinity. As I walk through faraway places, these memories bring me back to my home, to San Diego, to La Jolla, and to the playground of canyon, cliff, ocean, and sky of the Torrey Pines glider port. San Diego rises from the sea on a tilted table of land, an ancient seafloor. A mixture of salt marshes, bays, beaches, and weaving sandstone cliffs border the sea. Below the cliffs hide beautiful beaches with excellent surf. The sea cliffs of San Diego reach their breathtaking height at Torrey Pines. There, the 300-foot ever-crumbling cliffs stand against the ocean, and it is not uncommon for a landslide to crash down on the narrow sanctuary of beach. To get there is easy. From Interstate 5, take either Genesee Avenue west to North Torrey Pines Road going south, or La Jolla Village Drive west to North Torrey Pines Road going north. Take care not to drive fast and miss the sign at Torrey Pines Scenic Drive where you turn west. The road continues a short distance before becoming dirt. Park your car as the glider port building is just off to the left on a hill. There usually is strong wind on the open bluff. No trees, just sky and sand. Hang gliders, parasailers, and large radio-controlled gliders pass overhead as you begin your short walk towards the cliff. The glider pilots use whistles to communicate and signal to each other as they soar just overhead. The small glider port building sits on a grassy knoll. The knoll continues out to the cliff edge where the gliders hop off. It is a tiny airport of sorts along the cliff edge. A path meanders through washed-out gullies and the crumbling ledges. Looking up and out, the view arcs north many miles to Dana Point. Across the horizon are the islands of Santa Cruz, Anacapa, Santa Catalina, and San Clemente. To the south are the La Jolla Bay, La Jolla Caves, and the Cove, encompassing the San Diego La Jolla Underwater Park and Ecological Reserve. After your first look off the cliff, make your way to the grassy knoll and glider port office. There you can get a close look view at the gliders taking off and landing. There is a store and a lookout balcony. You can take lessons or join on a tandem ride with an experienced pilot. Walk to the north of the area, moving with the ragged edge of the cliff. The view down and out is awesome. At the north end of the lot is a steep and narrow trail descending the cliff down to Torrey Pines State Beach. The trail is single file, starting with footsteps in the steep face of sandstone, melded in over the years. From the beach, a short walk will bring you to the naked area where scary perverts play volleyball, flash you on your way to Bathtub Rock, which is also the end of the trail that descends to the famed Torrey Pines State Reserve. Back up at the glider port, notice a wide gully to the left of the glider takeoff area and a twisting trail that goes down. Over the years, I have heard this trail called the Goat Trail. This trail is heavily used and maintained well. Descending this fine trail will place you at the southern edge of Torrey Pines State Beach and along the north edge of Black's Beach, California's famous surf break. During the full moon at around midnight, groups of drummers meet at the base of this trail for a drum circle, solemn and serious. Often you can see the large beach fire from the point of La Jolla. Above the Goat Trail, there is a ridge that sits atop the cliff. Follow the sandy trail along the ridge towards the south. The trail is narrow, and several areas have fallen off the cliff, so be careful. The view expands, and the canyon below becomes visible. The main surf break at Black's Beach comes into view, North Peak. This trail eventually connects with another trail, the Z Trail. This narrow trail turns left away from the cliff and cuts through the bushes and descends into the canyon on the east, just below the Salk Institute. This canyon has tall and interesting sandstone wall formations, paths cut by footsteps in the stones, and waterfall. This is the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The bottom has a 20-foot cliff and cascade in the summer, when the water's flow is slow down the canyon, you can climb down ledges safely, but in the winter it changes. The trail is slippery with mud and the ground tends to crumble. In the past, we had long ropes that we would climb down the last cliff while handing surfboards to our friends below, but the lifeguards often find our rope and take it or catch us, climbing down and hassle us about doing it. Back in the 80s, when I was a kid, before the 2-hour parking, this was the way to go for our family and friends. It was semi-secret with a little taste of wilderness. For the adventurous and curious, the Ho Chi Minh Trail is a special secret and a must. The Torrey Pines Glider Port is most definitely a personal favorite. It is a place that marks the years of my life. Visit this park and let it mark yours. Just pull over, park, walk to the edge, and breathe.